The news at this hour begins in West Africa, where Nigeria's former Vice President Atiku Abubakar visited ex-President Muhammadu Buhari in Daura, Katsina State on Saturday. The purpose of the visit was not disclosed, but videos on social media show them working and conversing with their associates. Now, this visit follows Atiku's recent meeting with former Military President Ibrahim Babangida and ex-military head of state Abdulsalami Abubakar in Mina, Niger State. Atiku has been a fierce competitor against Buhari over the past decade. In 2014, he contested for the APC presidential ticket but came third. In 2019, he ran against Buhari on the People's Democratic Party's platform, coming second and unsuccessfully challenging the results in court. Last year, he lost to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and also failed in his court challenge. To discuss this, we are joined by Chairman, African Democratic Congress, Lagos State, George Ashiru. Thank you for joining me on the news. Now,
thank you very much.
Great.
It's my pleasure being here.
What do you make of Atiku's visit to Buhari, of course, the former President Buhari, and also Babangida, and even Abdulsalam? Many are of the opinion that maybe he might be gearing up to run again for the top job in 2027. What's your take?
It would not be surprising if former Vice President Atiku wants to run again for president. That seems to be his lifelong ambition, his lifelong desire and goal. And for that to happen, he's going to learn from his previous errors, and he's going to look for different ways to make that dream become a reality. You remember that former President Buhari himself had attempted to become president three separate times and lost. And until he got an alliance with parties in the Southwest, then he was able to win. So it is not abnormal, it's not unusual. It is what politicians do. They look for various strategic alliances to ensure that they keep their personal dreams alive. And it's not the only one doing it. It's just that he's probably the most high-profile person, going around trying to make himself relevant and make the key stakeholders in the political industry continue to invest in him, continue to invest in his ambition in the hope that one day he will fulfill his lifelong ambition after stepping down after 8 years as vice president.
Now, I mean, talking about alliances, this seems to be particularly a tradition amongst people running for public office, particularly that of the top job, where they visit former heads of state. Now, my question to you is this. Looking at the current political atmosphere and climate in Nigeria, how relevant are these former leaders?
Relevant to the extent that they might be able to draw sponsors in your direction, and that's it. Most of our former presidents don't have the political clout to actually drive voters, but they can drive strategic investment into your campaign. So if you need 2 billion, 4 billion, 5 billion, 6 billion to be able to run for office, you are going to go to the people that have the ability to speak to their minions, speak to their mentees and their proteges and say, look, this is the man you all should support. And then they will take their investments and point into that person. So that's really, to the extent, that's really what the former heads of states and former political figures, that's to the extent of their interest. They cannot actually go, I mean, looking into the history of former President Obasanjo, he struggled to win in his own home state, the presidency. He struggled to win in his own home state, even in his own ward. He struggled to win, to get political support from people from Ogun State, from Abeokuta, from his particular ward. So that shows you that they are not necessarily popular with the people, but they have the resources to invest in whoever else may be popular. And so I think that's basically, the kind of political activity that goes on sometimes on the ground. But in the case of this high-profile candidate, it's going to be seen in the news as marking the preparation for 2027.
But my next question is, isn't it rather too early to start prepping for an election that is years away?
Oh, absolutely not. If you don't prepare, you will find that you're running a relay race with people who have already won the race. So preparing early is the name of the game. He's not in office. He's a private citizen. So he has the capacity and the ability to go do whatever he wants to do, as long as it is within the ambits of the law and the Constitution. So there's nothing wrong with it. And as a matter of fact, other political parties are also doing the same thing. Other people from other political parties, like I said, it's because it's a very high-profile person. I'm very sure that the former Labour Party candidate, Mr. Peter B, is also doing the same. I'm sure whoever has a desire to still be relevant politically is consistently moving around to all of the high-profile figures of the past, seeking the endorsement, the support, the voice of basically saying that, look, you may be the one we should look to. So that's what he's doing. Like I said, he's a private citizen. I will never discourage people that feel that they have something to offer Nigeria doing so. But I would be more interested in what other candidates or aspirants are also doing. Why are they not also stepping up? Why are young people not stepping up? Why are people in their 40s not stepping up? You know, moving around the whole country, doing town hall meetings and trying to get the same agenda, so that we will not have to look at all of the older, former, political figures to be the future of Nigeria. That's really the challenge. The younger people, the smaller political parties, should meet up and begin to do the necessary things to ensure that we have a transformational leadership going forward in Nigeria.
You raised a pivotal issue here, talking about young people, smaller political parties not, being as aggressive and assertive, as the, names that we're used to, over the years. Why do you think this is? Could it be as a result of a lack of experience, strategy, funds, or the zeal?
All of it. Even if you have the zeal, you find that you are consumed by the powers that be. Even if you have the voice, you find that they are silenced. Media does not support a lot of these new candidates either. So when you add all of it together, it becomes very difficult to put your head up. However, if you look at countries like people like Obama and people who have stepped out of the mold in other countries, it's because they had a very powerful message. See, if you have a very powerful message, and the media will listen to you and they will convey your message to the people, and the people will rise up. If you don't have a powerful message, if it's a cacophony of repetition of what people are used to, the mediocrity of the past, consistency in continuing the path that we have gone through, people can smell it. And when they smell it, you have to do a lot more and invest a lot more before you can get their support. So that's really why the younger people sometimes struggle. I think they don't really know what they want. I think sometimes they don't have the right strategy. They don't build the right team. Sometimes it's a Me Tooism, they are just doing their own thing. They're not trying to create the necessary alliances with other, organizations and other peoples who have the same kind of ideology for Nigeria. So it's a complex issue, but it's not so difficult for somebody who has the passion and the zeal.
Now, let's also talk about the role of, opposition parties. Do you think, particularly in this current administration, they are positioning themselves properly in that light to ensure that, number one, they're seen, they stay relevant, and they also keep the ruling party in check? Are they doing their job as opposition in a democracy?
Well, you're talking to me. I belong to the opposition movement and I am doing my job. I'm ensuring that I'm engaging with the people, I'm engaging through the media with the citizenry, with the voters, with the electorate, and constantly showing that there's a credible alternative. Constantly saying that there's a better way to run the government, constantly saying there are candidates that you do not know that may have your interests at heart and may be able to do so without necessarily tying their hands and legs into the bigger political parties that are more expensive before you can get their tickets. Because I think for a lot of people who are passionate to run, they cannot afford to pay expensive primary fees. They cannot afford to become aspirants or candidates of the larger parties. And so they get frustrated and they get out of the system. And some of them at best become political appointees. So we are trying as much as possible to keep engaging the people, to keep asking the critical question that, do you really need money bags to be your next head of state, the next president, governors, commissioners, members of National Assembly? Or do you need people who are really passionate, who are patriotic, who are thinking of the future of the country, and who want to keep the country in the direction that all of us want? And that's what I represent. That's what I'm sure quite a lot of other opposition movements represent. As long as they have the opportunity for the media will provide them the opportunity to speak, with their voice and their vision.
All right. George Ashiru, Chairman, African Democratic Congress. Thank you for your time on the news.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right.